Right, the January transfer window has now firmly swung open, and that means Chelsea could potentially be busy, but we're not too sure. We're hearing different statements coming out of the clubs, some suggesting that maybe we are more interested in outgoings, and others suggesting we are very firmly interested in bringing a couple of new names in. And who better to run through the January transfer windows with than my friend Josh Aveste. Josh, what's happening, mate?
Mate, all good. Some people have gambling addictions, some people have alcohol addictions. I think
Porn addictions.
I've got a transfer addiction.
It is good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is good. And you know what? Christmas Day, sack that off. It's all about deadline day. So I can't wait.
Right, so we are going to start with the outgoings, yeah? One man we're not going to talk too much about in this podcast is Conor Gallagher, because I think that we'd just be going over old ground. Like, we've pretty firmly put our flag in the ground on the Conor Gallagher situation here. We've both got videos on them on our separate channels. We spoke about on the Kickoff this week. That video is going to be out pretty soon. So definitely head over to the Kickoff YouTube channel and have a little watch of that where we're talking about Conor Gallagher, because it's interesting, isn't it, to get other supporters' aspects on it and their views on it and whatnot. So we're not going to touch too much on the Gallagher one. All we will quickly say on the Gallagher one is, if anything, we're conflicting reports always, but we are hearing some more encouraging reports around it.
Yeah, we're seeing that it's like a contract extension is on the table, or at least being discussed internally. They've actually got to present it to him. So we're waiting for that. There's so many sort of briefings and counter briefings. I think each side is trying to make some point scoring moments here. And it'd be interesting to see what actually ends up happening. I think it will happen.
We're very much in the sort of stance of, we don't want Conor Gallagher to go. The club need to do what Conor Gallagher want, whatnot.
Yeah.
But let's play devil's advocate. The club want Gallagher on an 8-year contract. So the club are basically saying it's not even that we're trying to sell him, it's that he doesn't want to sign the 8-year contract. Is it I know, look, layman's terms, I'm by no means a footballing expert here. Do we not just offer him a 4-year with the year option of an extension?
Yeah, easy. It's just even a 5 would be fine. And surely Gallagher would take that. If Gallagher is so keen to come and stay at Chelsea and be with the squad, then why wouldn't he accept a 5-year deal? I completely understand the 8-year, reticence to sign that. Who would want to sign their life away for 8 years without knowing whether you're going to play? They're already signing about 15 other midfielders. We've already got 8 in the squad already. You can understand.
We never keep a manager for longer than 26 months or something like that. Yeah. So Conor Gallagher might be sitting pretty right now knowing that he's Poch's man, but God forbid the form doesn't pick up, someone else comes in. Conor Gallagher's a very specific type of player. So Conor Gallagher, I think he's absolutely brilliant, yeah? And I said we weren't going to talk about Gallagher, but fuck it, we've got it now. Conor Gallagher's brilliant, right? But I am not naive enough to think he's indispensable to every system. A different manager could come in, play a very different style of football, different system, and then Conor Gallagher could be dispensable. So I think that when there is uncertainty about whether even the manager will be here going forward, which obviously, we're both Poch in, but you never know with Chelsea, do you?
Yeah, the one counter to that, though, is that every manager wants a player that wants to be there and is desperately going to run around and try and help the team. Conor Gallagher, that's his best attribute. He can get in there, get tackles. He can shoot, he can pass. We haven't seen that side of him this season because he's been mainly a presser and a disruptor as opposed to a goal scorer or a passer. But those qualities every manager wants. And so I know exactly what you're saying, but you can understand why quite a lot of managers, modern managers, playing in a different system, and our board are going to look for sort of progressive, exciting managers. You could see why they would like Conor.
Yeah. Let's speak about the little Dutch wizard, Ian Maatsen.
That was how you say wizard in Dutch.
Yeah. Wizard. Spreken ze Deutsch. Ian Maatsen. Yeah. He is being linked with Bundesliga outfit Borussia Dortmund. They're going to have Maatsen at left back. They're going to have Sancho right wing. They're going to be fucking tearing it up, aren't they? But as much as he's being linked with Borussia Dortmund, I think we're struggling, aren't we, to come up with an agreement on the fee, because we accepted a bid from Burnley, didn't we? And that was 31.5 million or something. We accepted it. Maatsen didn't really want the move. And again, this is another thing that shows that what the club want and what the manager want are not necessarily aligned. Because why did Maatsen turn down that move to Burnley once accepted it? Because he clearly thought that he was in Pochettino's plans. Now, things have gone on and he's probably realising, do you know what? Sometimes they move Gusto over to left back. They're playing Levi Colwell at left back out of position all the time, or what at least we as the fans perceive to be out of position. I'm not going to be a left back. The attacking options are just there for all to see, and I'm not going to get him past, even the ones that are coming off the bench. So maybe I will need to move on. So what is the fee, in your opinion? Take away any bias or whatnot. What is the fee for Ian Maatsen?
35 million.
Yeah, I think, mate, I think so.
That's what it should be. Like, I couldn't believe that we were even accepting that bid from Burnley, because you think that it's well under his value. He does class as a homegrown player, which is very important for all Premier League teams. He is very, very good. The only thing that I worry about in sort of like Premier League terms is he's slightly lightweight. Like, you do worry about him getting bossed. And also, you look at the way that a lot of teams are playing in the Premier League at the moment. It is very aerial. And that's why we struggled at the end of the game against Luton, because they were putting balls in and we couldn't go toe-to-toe to them aerially. That was a biggest problem, and you can therefore understand why Maatsen isn't getting a game. And Poch has voted with his team selections, hasn't he? Because, like, for example, if he didn't fancy Conor Gallagher, and was saying in the press, I still like him, then he wouldn't be playing. You can understand that. With Maatsen, he's done that exact thing. He hasn't played him. He obviously doesn't fancy him, as you say, playing other centre back, other positions at left back. So for me, when I look at the value for Maatsen, you look at the rest of the time in his contract, which isn't a massive amount of time, but also his general quality. You know that he's going to be a Champions League level player. Like, we can easily say that. I think most other fan bases would be open to sort of agreeing that he will be a Champions League level player.
I don't know whether it's because we look at, like, what they've done with young players, even British young players before, but it's just such a perfect fit for him to go to Dortmund. I mean, he's not British, I know that, but he's a homegrown player. His name's Ian, so. But yeah, like, you look at that and you're like, well, of course, like, it's a no-brainer. You're going to go to Dortmund and you're going to be the bollocks. And that's what's going to happen.
I honestly do think he's one of those players that goes to Dortmund and then comes back to the Premier League and probably plays for Man City or United or Liverpool, one of those teams. Because, like, you know what Dortmund are like? They're that sort of breeding ground for talent. You saw it with Bellingham. Look how his sort of star has risen since he went and left and went to Real Madrid. Not saying that Ian Maatsen is going to be that quality, but I have to say they've got a very good record of developing players. And
you're backing Maatsen to have a big falling out with Ten Hag within the next 2-3 years, I'd say. Yeah,
mate, Ten Hag's not going to be there in 2 or 3 years. So yeah, I think. I
fucking hope he is.
I think he's going to go to Dortmund. I think he's going to be very good, and that's actually, if you think about just selfishly from the player's perspective, that's almost like the best move that he could do for himself. Way better than relegation threat in Burnley. They could be in the Championship, next year very easy. In fact, they probably will be. Yeah. So you're looking at Champions League Dortmund right at the top of the Bundesliga or Burnley. That's a pretty easy decision. But look, I think there'll be other clubs in for him as well, and hopefully that raises the price up.
Let's speak about a man I know you've got a bit of a soft spot for. Not Mudryk, not that level soft spot, but you do like this man, Andrey Santos.
Yeah, don't have a poster of him on my wall, but still absolutely love him. Maybe it's sort of just, a little look every now on the phone just at his picture, because, I like looking at him. Yeah, I really like Santos. I think he's...
Tell you who doesn't like looking at him? Steve Cooper.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you who doesn't like looking at Steve Cooper, the fucking Forest board, so it doesn't matter. But it is concerning, and maybe just the damage is done now, but obviously Bruno has come in, managing Forest now, and even he's not interested in keeping Santos, or we already started the process of recalling him and it was too far gone. What is it?
Mate, they signed 2 centre defensive mids at the tail end of the transfer window when they didn't necessarily expect them to come in. And basically, they're going to play players that are at that club long term. Like, you can completely understand the Forest perspective. I have to say, like, the communication and the way that it was done was shit from them. Yeah. And I think that will impact the way that we work with them in the future. Like, why would you want to loan out any other players if you don't have the trust, of the Forest board? I think they are also, like, the Forest board, they're a little bit scattergun. They're a little bit wild in the way they do things. Like, if I was thinking about a club that I want to do business with, I don't think Forest now, for in terms of loan transfers, would be the ones that I'd want to work with.
It's true though, isn't it? Like, I look now at Leicester, for example, right? When they come up, I'm happy to loan a few to Leicester after, been getting good minutes for Cassaday. Yeah. Ipswich, Murray Hutchinson's not really been getting in the team, but, Burnley off the back of how it went with Ian Maatsen there. But to send a player there, and this is what we're going to touch on here, because there's sort of conflicting reports, and they're both about 50-50. The first is that we're going to see Andrey Santos come back and be integrated back into the Chelsea squad. The second, and I don't know whether it's just because positionally every player in this position that could potentially be on the market is getting linked with these guys, but is Newcastle. we both like Newcastle. You're always going to have a little bit of a soft spot for a team that a good friend of yours supports. But at the same time, it's like, well, you've not fucking played Lewis Hall. So I don't really know if I want to send him to you. Plus, as well, Newcastle, ironically, have become way more of a direct rival than maybe 6 weeks ago I thought they would have been. When you look at their form in the Premier League at the moment and our, if you want to call it a resurgence, but, you know, we're stringing along a few more wins. They're only, like a win, 3 points above us, something like that at the
it's very
moment.
close. Yeah, it's very, very close. Yeah, they are a direct rival, but then also you can say he's better than a lot of their backup options in terms of midfield. Like, obviously, they've lost Tonali and, you know, they've got a lot of injuries just up and down the pitch. And you can see a player of Santos's quality coming in there and actually playing and being very, very good for them. I could see Eddie Howe being quite good for him as an individual. The fact of the matter is, look, Barcelona really wanted Santos. And you know, Barcelona are having their issues, their own financial problems. And so a loan deal for a promising young Brazilian, you know, could be a very exciting proposition for them. But, you know, you don't go to Barcelona if you're shit. You just don't. So he's obviously got a level of quality.
Can I tell you one, though?
Go on.
I used to use that exact argument, and this isn't a disrespect to him because I know he's a big watcher of the channel, but Romeu.
Yeah.
Do you remember? We took him on from Barca, and I was like, mate, you ain't in the Barca academy if you're shit. And he weren't great, was he? But
Barca academy is different from Barca first team, and Barca first team were the ones that wanted Santos.
Yeah.
You know, and you know what's funny? That even that you mentioned that is maybe he's the one that you know, is replaced by Santos. So they've obviously got Romeu in because he's a freaking cheap option. He probably would have gone there for free to be back in Barcelona, and you can't blame him to be back there. But Santos is technically better.
Yeah.
Like it's that simple. So you can understand why Barca wanted him. I don't think we particularly want to deal with Barca, and so that's why we've not done the deal. But, like, you know, he is that level of quality. So I can see him going to Newcastle, be very good. But that's the reason, mate, why I want to keep him in the squad.
yeah, I was going to say, like, surely when we're looking at the options we're having off the bench at the moment, obviously, Chukwuemeka's still out injured, not necessarily a like for like, you know. Enzo, bit hit and miss at the moment. I'm really not sure about Enzo at the moment. Ugachukwu is sort of in and out because of injuries again. Lavia's come back, got himself injured straight away. So even like in the match against Luton, I'm thinking, okay, Enzo coming back off a couple of weeks of inactivity. We've not really got that solid option to come on. And when you're talking about bringing a midfielder on in the game, especially a game that you're leading like we were against Luton, and Enzo's not really... Enzo's giving me a bit of Jorginho vibes at the minute, mate.
No,
but
I think you're harsh. I think I don't think Enzo is a bruiser tackler. And
no,
we
but that's
almost
what I'm saying.
that
In that specific game. Oh, Enzo's mate. Enzo's a brilliant player. Like, he is a brilliant player. I think he's going to come good, very, very good. But what I'm saying is, in that sort of game where we're 3-1 up at the time or whatever, or 3-0 up when Enzo comes on, 3-1 up, whatever, and Andrey Santos getting stuck in there in the midfield probably picks up booking after about a minute being on the pitch. But he's more the sort of player that I'm thinking, all right, bench option, let's have him on there. And does he want to be a bench option? No, but he's not even a bench option at Forest, so let's see.
At the end of the day, like, do you want him in and around the squad next season? Yes or no?
I need to see more of him. I'll tell you who I do want in and around the squad. Castay. Like him.
I like him
really
a lot.
like
but
him.
he's more attacking. He's more attacking than Santos. Like, he's more of that sort of 10 role. Maybe even like a 3-8. He's nowhere near Lampard quality, but he plays in a Lampard way, where you want him arriving late in the box, like you want him getting goals. Like, that's where he's very, very good. And actually, I get sort of a little bit of Conor Gallagher from Castay sometimes. Technically very good, runs around, very good at disrupting play, but then also very good at getting goals. So I like that as well. But the answer for that question for me is, I do want to see Santos in and around the squad. And so if you want him in and around the squads next season, why not just get him involved now? We've only got 5 months of the year left. We got, you know, lots of injuries, lots of people in and out. So why not just play him? He seems like he is durable and fit enough to play. He's a young player, so why not have him in the squad? And the key one for me is, like, look, Pochettino doesn't necessarily fancy the academy boys too much. And when I'm talking about the academy boys, I'm talking about the players that are in the academy right now, not, you know, the players that have graduated from the academy. And so if you're looking at Castledine, you know, as a player on the bench at the moment, as basically our DM backup, he's never going to play. Like, Pochettino's never going to put, even against Luton, he wouldn't fancy him to bring him on. So why not get a player that's sort of a level above that on the bench. And for me, that's Santos. So look, mate, if it was my decision, I'm really interested to see what you think as well. If it was my decision, I would be keeping him in January. I wouldn't be loaning him out again.
Yes, I would bring him back and have as an option. Right, so we're also hearing that Chelsea are in for a centre-back in this January transfer window, and the name that we are being linked with at the moment is Jean-Claire Todibo.
Love it.
Beautiful the Nice defender.
Yeah.
Realistically, don't know too much about him. Funnily enough, despite the fact that I do a football podcast, don't watch Nice all that much, but they're having a good season. They're second, aren't they, in Ligue 1. He's made 14 appearances for them. Tall, strong upper body, good passing range. But we could pretty much say that about every single one of our defenders, couldn't we? And it's like, why haven't we been able to get the best out of them? So it could very much give you Badia Shield vibes, you know what I mean? It's like, so I'm not sure on him. The only thing that I'm not too keen on is the fact that we're hearing both Man United and Spurs are in for him. And look, sometimes, especially when we go on to talk about this number 9 position, we're going to in a minute, it almost feels like there's a shortage of options. But I want to avoid a bidding war, man, really.
Is centre-back the key position to strengthen in January?
I think it's a position that we probably do need to strengthen a little bit. I'm starting to believe in that more as the week go by. But if you gave me an ultimatum and you said, right, we can only strengthen in, let's say for example, this is it, right? We can get a centre-back and maybe a fringe starting 11 midfielder in, yeah? Or we can just bank on a number 9. I'd say number 9.
Yeah, easily. That's the key position that we need. I like this guy, and I think what worries me about him is that there's the connection between Nice and Jim Radcliffe at United, and that worries me. And then also, Spurs are desperate for a centre-back. Absolutely desperate. Do you know what? Even when Romero comes back, there's an argument to say that they could do with this guy at the heart of their defence. And actually probably need that area strength for more than any other. So there's always a desire thing. And also, let's speak no bones about it. There'll be other clubs that are interested in this guy because he's that level of player. So I can understand why the club are going, very good guy, like him, scouted him, really want him. But then also, he's got a lot of time left on his contract. Nice, as you say, is second in the league. Why would they get rid of one of their better players? And so there's a lot of negative elements of this where it's just I just don't see it happening in January. So there's a lot of talk about him because he's an exciting player, but the feasibility of it, I don't actually think he goes to anyone in January. So it might be one to watch for the summer.
Mm-hmm. Let's stick a pin in that one and come back to it. And let's move on to what we all want to discuss and what we all want Chelsea to do. I just don't know whether it be January or not. Let's speak about the pursuit of a number 9. Now, let's say before we go into it, let's not talk about Osimhen and Tony because, we spoke about it so much. Let's have a look at a couple of alternatives for that spot. So starting off, let's go with the Girona boy. I can't pronounce his name. What's his name?
Oh, God, I can't either. Dovibik?
Artem.
We'll call him Artem. He's Ukrainian. It's not the easiest
6'2", big lad, doing well. Girona are not just a surprise package in La Liga this season, they are the surprise package across Europeans' top flight leagues, I would say. They're absolutely smashing it. They're level on wins with Real Madrid, level on draws, losses. I think only have one loss in La Liga this season. Really, really overperforming. I think they finished about 9th or something last season. And he has been one of their standout players so far from this season. I think he's got 11 goals, 4 assists, so 15 goal contributions in 17 games so far this season. When we compare it to our forward line, let's say, for example, Brower, absolutely nowhere near. Nicholas Jackson, he's got, 9 goal involvements in 19 games, something like that. But here's the only problem with it. When I look at that, okay, he could be a really, really good player who's just coming into his emergence right now. Or he could be going for a hot patch in La Liga.
Yeah.
And another man I know that went for a hot patch in La Liga was Nicholas Jackson. He had 11 goal involvements in his last 8 games, and that's why we signed him. And pretty much myself, yourself, and most of the fan base now are quite adamant that Nicholas Jackson can do a job for us. Maybe he'll be pushed out wide, maybe he'll come off the bench, but he's not the future of Chelsea at number 9. So would we run the risk with this kid if we were to sign him of it being another one of those cases?
I think if you didn't have Nicholas Jackson and Broja in the squad already, and you only had potentially one of those guys, you could go, yeah, do you know what? Getting a backup kind of player would be a good move. I just don't think there's a significant amount of data on this guy to say that he's a Premier League level quality player ready to go and make an impact right now. Look, he's 26, and if you're looking at a player now to grow and develop with his stats, if he was 21, mate, I'd go, do you know what? The stats are really good actually, and he can grow and develop, but it's like... He's 26 years old now. Like, I'd want to see him in his prime absolutely now and with an amazing CV. And I just don't see the CV enough to go...
Ivan Toney's playing championship football at 25, but then you're not really in favour of Toney.
I'm not in favour of Toney at all. And that's the reason why I'm not, because he was playing at that level. And we know that he's good in the Premier League. But for me, the key thing now is that we need an elite goal scorer. We keep saying it, is Jackson good enough to muck it in the Premier League? Because, he's got a very limited CV and he's young, and is he going to develop in the way that we need to? So why are we doing this dance again with another player, mate? It's a bit of a weird one. So I understand why he's being mentioned. And you know what? Guirassy is another one that's similar in the Bundesliga, and you can see why these guys are being mentioned because they've had very, very good seasons. But that doesn't mean that they're right for us.
You say about elite goal scorers. Let me give you some elite goal scoring numbers. 18 goals and 4 assists in, I think, 14 matches in the Eredivisie is the record so far of Santiago Jimenez, the forward that has recently opted to play for Mexico over Argentina, and he is playing for Feyenoord at the moment. Can he tempt you?
I mean, Eredivisie known as supplying Chelsea with some absolute wonder
Duds.
number 9s. My big man, Matthias Kesman, had him on the back of that beautiful black and silver shirt that we had in the early 2000s.
But that's the problem, that you do get good players come from there, but then it's like, for every Luis Suarez, there is a Matthias Kesman. Yeah. For every Robin van Persie, there is an
Anthony.
Jose Altidore and Anthony. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's very hit and miss when you're buying from that league, especially when you're looking for guaranteed goal scorers.
Yeah.
Players can go over there, light it up, come over and be shit. Managers can go there. Ten Hag, Steve McLaren. Doesn't necessarily translate, does it? It
doesn't. So I think the jump from the Eredivisie into the Premier League is way more than it was from La Liga or Serie A. Or
is that how you pronounce it? How do you pronounce it?
Eredivisie.
Eredivisie.
Yeah. I just call it the Dutch league.
Aphrodisiac. That's what that word gives me. Gives me vibes of.
Daydreaming it.
Right. Okay. So we're both pretty sure that. Well, let's just think though. Price wise. I mean, actually, I've just seen the price I've written down, rumoured about 50 million. So let's not bother. The other fella we were on about though, Artem. Who's obviously playing for Girona, he's rumoured at about 38 million, which means he'd cost less than Sterling, Disasi, Fofana, Mudryk, Kukera. Right.
The way to answer this, mate, is does Broja start in that team over that guy?
No, I don't know.
I think a lot of teams would want Broja to be starting for them. Like if AC Milan want Broja.
Am I not seeing something with Broja at the minute? Because I was like a big supporter of Broja, and support's the wrong word because I still support him. I still really hope he come good. I'd love to, but I'm not gonna just lie for the sake of like wanting to please everyone on this channel. I've been very much underwhelmed by him since the injury, and the key thing is it's probably the injury. You know what I mean? That's not his fault at all. But
no, he's one of those players that I think you may want to just cash in on now because you don't know if he's going to be elite Champions League quality for us. And if it's a gamble and it's the opportunity to get a player like Osimhen, then I would take that gamble now and I would offload him. Especially when we've had the arguments that we've got about Conor Gallagher going. If you could offload Broja and save all that money and keep a player like Gallagher who's proven ready to go right now and can muck it for Chelsea, then I would choose that every day and twice on Sundays.
So does that leave us out of options, or have you got a rabbit in the hat, a trick up the sleeve?
Well, I've got 2 rabbits in the hats. Right. One that I'll mention straight away is Benjamin Šeško. What a player he was for Salzburg. He moved to Leipzig, and therefore we thought it was a bit of a blocker and he wouldn't be able to come to us. But we're hearing a few rumours that he might be available. He isn't playing for Leipzig, which
Leipzig
is a scary
must
one.
fucking hate us coming in for all their players all the time.
Well, exactly. But the interesting one with Leipzig is they're not playing him. So they've got Poulsen and they've got Openda playing up front for them at the moment, and they're banging goals in between them. They play two up front. They play like a 4-2-2.
So I don't know too much about this player, so you're going to educate me here.
Yeah.
Why are we going for someone who's not making the first team at Leipzig?
So there are lots of good stats about him, and they called him the baby Haaland back in the day, which is a nice way of describing him. He definitely did it in the Austrian league, Austrian Bundesliga it's called, and obviously Haaland had that record there as well, so you can see why they're making the comparisons. He's 20 years old. He's Slovenian, big, strong player that can hold up the ball, but also just boss defenders and smack it. He's got a very, very powerful shot, but also for a big lad, he's got a good set of feet as well. He can dance around. He's very good dribbling. And also ball retention is something that I really like with him as well. Like you ping it to him and he keeps the ball. Do you know with some of our attackers at the moment, especially like Jackson sometimes, and he's getting better at this, but sometimes at the start of the season, you ping a ball to him and it would go. It would get lost. And actually I think Broja, that's another reason why I'm not as excited about Broja at the moment, because that's happening with him is he's losing the ball. But for that season before this season, in Austria, and obviously the Austrian league is so different. We were talking about how, the Eredivisie isn't the same. The Austrian league definitely isn't. But he was getting 16 goals in 23 starts. That's just goals. Yeah. So, he can get it in the back of the net. So I like this guy. And if he was available before he went to Leipzig, they were already looking at him. So you can understand why they're back in the market and looking at him now. The fact that he isn't playing is the one reason why I'm now going, I don't know if he is the option. And so for me, right, that what we're proving now is you can go through every single potential candidate here and you can look at all the young strikers and go, there's something exciting here and there's some potential. But what there isn't is someone that can hit the ground running right now. And that's why we either need to break the bank for Osman, or my final option that I'll present to you is slap Nkunku up there. Nkunku had fantastic numbers, in the Bundesliga last season, and he was doing it for Leipzig. I'm just going to pull up his stats now. 23 goals and 9 assists in 36 games for Leipzig. So, and obviously he was playing as a second striker. He was playing off another player as well, because that's the way they played. So you don't know how this is going to work in the Chelsea system with a single striker up top. But if we're talking about all these players and you're looking at the stats and going, we need to sign someone, do we? Like, can we just we've talked about this before. Can we put Nkunku as the false 9? We've got amazing quality now in terms of the wingers, and we could sign more wingers. I personally would be going all out for Elise this summer.
Yeah, I'd love Elise. I'd
be going
Apparently
all out.
Man United want him. I'd love him.
Well, let's go crazy. And there is a release clause now in his new contract.
60 mil
comes in the summer. So apparently it is 60 million. So let's hope that it is that. So why not go for him? Try and get an Osman in, or maybe even you just go with Nkunku Jackson as your forward, as your central strikers, and then bring in a player like Elise and have all of these other winger options all around him. Mudryks, your Sterlings, your Cole Palmers. Like, we're building a very good sort of like, three behind the striker options at the moment. It's Chuck Gallagher in there as another one as well. We're building a lot of options in there, so why not just go for that? I have a feeling, mate, that they'll definitely do this in January. And then they'll look at it in the summer and go, is Osman available or not?
Could this African Cup of Nations end up being a bit of a blessing in disguise for us to be able to try other avenues? Because we're actually hearing now that Mauricio Pochettino is apparently very keen on seeing the potential link up between Nkunku and Broja, which we haven't really seen so much so far. It's always been Nkunku Jackson, hasn't it? So could maybe see that. I mean, Palmer in Nkunku, that's the one for me. If you stick Nkunku in the false 9 and Palmer in the 10 behind him, or even to the side of him, mate, I know Man City are just a different breed, but they've won titles without a number 9 with that rotating frontline system. It can be so good when it works well. And I look back at that Arsenal game earlier in the season when we didn't have an all-out 9, and it worked really well for us, didn't it? So
and you look at the way that Jackson's been moving out to the wide as well, and the potential
been decent as well. To be fair,
and even when Jackson's back, maybe Jackson isn't even the number 9. And what I like about this false 9 system is that we've got a lot of wingers that are very good at beating players, that are fast, that are technically very good. And if we've got that sort of interchange where you never know who is the one going through the middle, and they're all rotating and they can all play in that position, they're all being trained there. Like, mate, I'm not even going to take the piss here. I honestly think Noni could do a job as the false 9. I really do. Like his shooting numbers is way higher than anyone else in our team at the moment. Like his data set isn't as big, but his shooting numbers are massive. And so I think, there's Nkunku that could play up there, Jackson that could play up there, Madueke that could play up there. Hell, even Sterling has played as a false nine in his career and done very adequately there. I don't love it, but that's an option. That's an option. So if we're talking about this rotation, I think there's something very, very exciting about it. And maybe, mate, the era, if there are no number 9s on the market, maybe the era of the number 9 at Chelsea is finishing.
Very possibly, very possibly. What I do know is we've never really won a league title without one. And that's, not in my lifetime. And that's the thing that makes me always dial back to it and feel like we do need a number 9 option. But who would be your number 9 option? Do you think the sensible thing to do is go for what we perceive as being a proven number 9 in Ivan Toney or obviously in Victor Osimhen? Or are any of the guys we spoke of there sort of tickling your fancy? If not, who would you go for? Couple of things before I go. Misfits Boxing 012, the next event, January the 20th. I am fighting on there in Leeds. It's going to be a massive night. I'm looking forward to it. I'm feeling sharp at the minute and we're going to see a good show. So I am going to link the link you need for the tickets. If you want to come and support me, I'm going to be on first of the night, which means I will be out straight on the beers with all you lot after I get the win. So if you want to come, buy tickets through the link in the description. Also, massive shout out to the venue we record these podcasts at, which is Podcast Room in Barnes. If you're in the southwest London area, best podcast place, venue, facility you could possibly record from. Very affordable prices, very good staff, very good help, very good stuff. People, thank you very much for joining me in another video. Josh's channel is linked in the description, so please show your support and show your appreciation for him stopping by once again today by heading over there and subscribing to his channel that is linked in the description. I'll see you all in the next one.